Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. The original Captain Marvel was a very Superman-like character out of Fawcett Publications. Well-meaning boy given superhuman powers to fight the 7 evils that plague mankind, which were basically the 7 deadly sins. With his movie debuting soon, I figured it might be apropos to look at the origin they seem to have been heavily borrowing from for the film. That of the New 52.
Admittedly, I don't know much about the Big Red Cheese, nor have I always really cared too deeply about the character. He didn't pop up in many comics I collected, but he was heavily featured in one of the better Justice League Unlimited episodes, and was a welcome treat in Young Justice.
My thoughts on the movie itself will have to be a vlog for another day. For now, I'm taking issue with the New 52 Origins of Shazam, written by Geoff Johns with art by Gary Frank and Brad Anderson. So let's get this review started and see if this story makes us want to proudly cry out the word of power or cry for help.
I'm not going to look at covers since these were mostly backups in issues of Justice League. We begin with a man in a suit on his way to work, narrating how it was just like any other day. Gave some change to a homeless man, held the door open for a woman, but he was getting on the elevator and receiving some funky static shock that things take a turn for the obscure. Other people disappear, the elevator is changed, and oh yeah, then it starts plummeting. The man's fear of death subsides when he's stopped and the doors open, to a room not unlike a medieval castle. We see columns with dragons, a suit of armor on display, and a rug styled after Cap Marvel's lightning bolt.
Don't be fooled by how old the place looks. The owner's Etsy business is doing pretty well.
He followed a voice calling his name, finding an old bearded man in one of several empty thrones. He was asked a series of questions before the old-timer decided he isn't the one, and in another lightning flash he's back on the elevator. His account is one of several just like it playing on multiple TV screens, told by various men and women how the unnamed agitated stranger uttered a single word, Shazam, before they were returned. A guy in a suit walks into the monitor room. What do you think, Dr. Sivana?
An agitated man with a shaggy beard? Obviously we're dealing with Alan Moore.
Wait, no, that's Lex Luthor. Guys, where's Sivana? We got... Oh, this is Sivana? Okay, looks like he's been working out, but whatever. Lex Vana here says that these 37 accounts resemble the Legend of Black Adam, described in a book with the Shazam bolt on it and what looks like the silhouette of a person. Adam was a slave transported to the Rock of Eternity, a gathering place for sorcerers and sorceresses, and was chosen to be their champion. After he saved his land of Kahndaq from the 7 deadly sins, he up and vanished. Now Sivana is assured that magic is real, and he can find its source in order to do what science has failed to do: save his family.
What's this? A classic villain remade with a possibly empathetic motivation and potentially noble intentions? In a Geoff Johns book? Who ever heard of such a thing? I say good day, sir!
7 months later, we're in Philadelphia, a splash page making it quite clear it's Christmas time, and Billy Batson is distracted by the kids and their parents carrying presents. He's meeting with the Vasquezes, apologizes for being rude, and coyly explains what he likes to do: read, cook, organize his room, learning, doing a podcast about his social worker, Mrs. Glover. You know, what everyone else probably likes to do. The couple decides that they'll take Billy. Him being older than some kids that typically get adopted isn't a problem. The Vasquezes have other children around his age. Everything is set, and the Vasquezes leave, waiting for Mrs. Glover to drop Billy off that afternoon. What a couple of idiots.
Is this some kind of sick joke?
And what follows is an example of what happens when you murder subtlety. Billy says that he wishes he were already an adult so he didn't have to be in the foster care system, and Glover warns that she's running out of homes to send the most unpleasant boy she's ever known, so he'd better not screw this one up. But they apparently have a deal to stay out of each other's lives, so Billy says he'll get along just fine with the new family. The first chapter ends with glimpses of future installments, with some narration about the return of magic, and that Billy must embrace his greatest wish and learn his greatest lesson, as the final page shows only his hooded and largely shadowed Shazam look.
Yeah. You can't tell, but I'm rolling my eyes pretty severely right now.
You are a thief of joy.
Chapter 2 begins with the other Vasquez kids, all in a dark room together, because that doesn't look creepy, as they watch Billy approach the house with Glover. One of them, Freddy, calling him an easy score, with another kid being overly excited for their new addition. Outside, Billy mentions he'd rather live in the subway, but Mrs. Glover isn't gonna want him running away to threaten her record and costing her her pension. It's mentioned that Billy is the state's responsibility for another 3 years, meaning he's 15 years old, and he and his social worker trade insults just as the Vasquezes open up, and then it's all classic sitcom insta-smiles.
You know, my favorite sitcom from when I was a kid, Perfect Strangers, has a running gag that is perfect for a scene like this. But I'm not going to use it because this story doesn't deserve the whimsy of Mark Lynn Baker and Bronson Pinchot's comedic chemistry. You hear that, comic? You can't have the Balky!
With the local school notified and ready for Billy's enrollment, Glover takes her leave, and young Mr. Batson is treated to a splash page featuring a welcome banner and his new foster siblings. Everyone's saying hi while Freddy steals Billy's wallet, and everyone but him has a goofy smile when hot chocolate is served. Though the big kid over there seems like he could be crying out in pain. Anyway, introductions begin. First Mary, seemingly the oldest, as she's been there as long as she can remember, but that could be she's just more mature than the others. Oh, and her rabbit Hoppy, saved from cosmetic testing when she got him at the Puppy Mill pet store. That, sounds a little weird, but moving on. Then there's Freddie Freeman, obviously recognizable to classic Captain Marvel fans. He gets by on crutches and apparently likes to pull fire alarms. Cute. Pedro is Pedro. Eugene only reads non-fiction, and Darla goes in for the hug.
Emotional deflector shields at maximum. Hug has no effect.
Mary leads the kids upstairs, going over the house rules and pointing out the most important one is that they always have each other's backs. That's the family rule! Let's get one thing straight, Tiny Tina.
Borderlands 2 reference? Did he stay in a house long enough to become acquainted with the game Borderlands 2? Because I think that was a Borderlands 2 reference.
Billy basically tells Tina he wants to be left alone, and in turn he'll leave everyone else alone, saying none of them are really family. She runs away crying with at least 2 of her brothers following, and Mary basically throws Batson into his room. While her parents are dead and Freddy's are locked up, Darla's made it abundantly clear they didn't want her when they dropped her off, leaving her to cry herself to sleep for 8 months straight. Billy's cold response shows he only cares about himself, and Mary walks away noting how sad that is. Billy sits alone, insisting nobody really knows him, 'cause nobody gets him, man! While opening his bag and looking at a picture of, likely, his parents, sitting next to a tiger enclosure at the zoo, though it's oddly black and white. And they kind of look like Bruce Wayne and Margot Kidder. The little jerk puts his belongings beneath his bed, muttering that he didn't mean to make Darla cry, when he looks outside at a flash of lightning, seeing a face in the storm clouds. Weird.
I usually only see Jeff Bridges' face in the smoke of the fires I start.
Chapter 3 kicks off with Darla excitedly waking Billy for breakfast. He figures she'd still be mad at him, but she apparently doesn't get mad at people, which Eugene blames on a possible short-term memory, but Mary, already prepared for the day ahead, says staying mad is a waste of time.
Well, if it's justified, I find it rather cathartic.
Also, I do kind of find it funny, but not in a ha-ha kind of way, that line was written by one of the architects of one of the most maddening decisions in comics. Anyway, after Waffles, it's off to Fawcett City High School, where Freddy reveals he does things for other students, like forges doctor's notes and gets test scores to sell them off, offering a family discount to Billy, who reiterates his not family argument, now with an I don't need friends addendum. After he walks away, another student, Jermaine, confronts Freddy about a note he bought that cited endometriosis, which would require a hysterectomy, which is kind of a lady thing, which Jermaine is not. Why are we supposed to like Freddy again? Anyway, I guess nothing really interesting happened throughout the day because we jumped to the end of school. Dialogue shows Eugene may be smarter than the teachers since he corrects them so much, which seems like a stereotype since he appears Asian to me.
Is that racist?
Yes. A little bit.
No.
After Billy opts to walk home alone since he has a stop to make somewhere, 4 brothers from an affluent family confront Eugene for not throwing a test. A crack from Freddy gets them pushed against a wall, while another of the Breyer brothers twists Mary's arm to keep her at bay. Billy suddenly returns, dropping all 4 of them in very few moves, but he makes it clear to everyone that he just doesn't like bullies. That doesn't matter, though, as one of the faculty members catches him after the fact.
Oh, I bet now he's going to be rewarded with a medal, a parade, and his own late-night talk show.
No, he ends up in the principal's office with his foster dad, when Principal Peach reveals that Batson's records at other schools are the worst she's ever seen, meaning his social worker must have pulled some strings to get him to Fawcett High. Things don't improve when Mr. Breyer arrives briefly, only enough time to hint that he's made donations to the school and doesn't want questionable children picking fights with his sons again. Of course, the principal follows step, threatening to expel Billy upon another incident.
I can't say my school life ever involved the obnoxiously rich throwing their weight around, but that aside, I can attest that this outcome is not inaccurate, even though we don't really see what kind of punishment Billy gets, if anything, from the school. It doesn't necessarily make the story good, but hey, some credit where it's due.
Yeah, he was threatened with expulsion, but he did get into a fight, so you'd think that'd get him suspension or detention or something. Anyway, outside, Mr. Vasquez tells Billy he shouldn't get into fights, but the boy replies there are times that leave you with little other option. He confronts Mr. Breyer, warning that his kids better stop messing with people, or he'll personally deal with them. And like a calm, reasonable adult, Breyer grabs Billy and counterpromises to deal with the boy himself in such an event. Mr. Vasquez intervenes, ordering him rather forcefully to let Billy go and shaming him for threatening a child. Breyer throws both of them down, telling Mr. V to keep his vagabonds in their place or he will, with his children laughing all the way as he drives off. Billy picks himself up, saying he could have handled it alone, and they head home. 45 miles from Baghdad, Savannah is called to a dig site, where a partial cave-in revealed a door with symbols the scholarly doctor doesn't recognize. Figuring it must be Black Adam's tomb, he tries to crowbar it open, only to get some lightning to the face. But it's okay, because now he can see magic, and he gets a super cool and oh-so-edgy scar over his eye. A scar shaped like a lightning bolt.
This isn't Black Adam's tomb, it's Lord Voldemort's. Oh, that's embarrassing. So far, while I can relate to some of Billy's anger issues, I'm just not feeling it. There's some good dialogue and situational humor, but it just feels so off in some fashion. But hey, I committed to the review of the whole New Origin, so I have no one to blame but myself. I'm kidding. I can mostly blame these schmucks. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.